Well, the presidency. The president himself, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his vice, Kashim Shettima, being out of the country. In a statement, Presidential Special Advisor Bayo Ononuga was clarified that the president, Tinubu, on a 2-week working vacation, he is on a 2-week working vacation, remains fully in control of state affairs and has been issuing directives remotely. He mentioned a similar situation during the Buhari administration when both the president and his vice were abroad at the same time, with governance continuing smoothly. A more recent example was in April when both Tinubu and Shettima were on separate trips and state operations proceeded without disruption. Ononuga further reassured citizens that key officials, including the Senate President and ministers, are overseeing daily operations, with the Constitution allowing both leaders to perform their duties remotely.
Well, we're now being joined by our Rise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku, for the big story this morning. Good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, Adesua. We're twinning today. Black.
Yes, black. You can never go wrong with black.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this story. Is there a leadership vacuum or not? The presidency says, be calm, there's no vacuum here.
Yes.
What do you say?
Well, I mean, the presidency says the organs of state are functioning. But that's what the whereabouts of the president and vice president is of interest to the people, and it's normal, especially given everything that is currently going on in the country. It's a difficult time for Nigeria, talking about high inflation, the general inflation, and then food inflation, the insecurity problems. You have the high cost of petrol, which is affecting lives dramatically, and a couple of other things happening at the same time. People want to have a sense that their leaders are around to tackle these heavy challenges and do the heavy lifting that is needed in order to make life better for them. The optics are not good at the moment, and the presidential spokesman tried to calm down nerves and say that, the National Assembly is there, work is going on as usual. He did use a very poor example, saying that during President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, he was away at the same time with the vice president. And that tenure or that administration is not a good example because it had the recurrent pattern of poor governance, authoritarianism, lawlessness, and wanton corruption. President Muhammadu Buhari was away from the country for extended periods of time because he was sickly. He was on medical vacation most of the time. He did, at some point, transfer power to the vice president. He also wrote officially informing the National Assembly that he was away. At other times, he refused blatantly to transfer that power, and he was lampooned for that. Well, now President Bola Tinubu was supposed to be away for 2 weeks on working vacation. That 2 weeks has elapsed at this one. So the question will be, why is he not back? The vice president is away for just 2 days. He will be back on Saturday, so that's a short trip. Again, the optics are not good. People want to see that you're actually doing the work that you were elected to do.
Yeah, well, they say 2 wrongs never make a right. That someone was doing what you're doing now does not preclude that you can do it when it sounds not particularly right. But my interest is in the fact that does this sound like a government that is not planning right? When both the president and his vice are out of the country at the same time, would you think that there should have been more coordination in terms of itinerary to know when you go, when I stay, and all that? What's your sense?
You're right, and there should be proper coordination. It's little reason why the president and vice should be out at the same time. You know, these are very important positions. These are the principal officers of the country. And this makes people to feel or to advance the argument that Nigerian leaders have very little regard for the country, very little regard for the offices they hold, and very little regard for the people that they govern. You know, but the presidential spokesman continues to defend his government. And let's share here what he said. He said, and I quote, "It is important to note that the president and the vice president are fully engaged with the nation's affairs even while they're away. There is no leadership vacuum." You know, he goes on to explain that in these days of technology, you can govern virtually. He says, you know, we can adapt, you know, Bayo Onanuga says. And then again, he remembers again that former vice president and the president during Buhari's tenure did this. It doesn't mean that it should be done under this administration. Again, this is a tough time for Nigerians, and they want to see that the president and vice are hands-on, are around to do the work that is required to pull the country out of the brink. I mean, we just read yesterday that Nigeria has one of the worst performing currencies, you know, in Africa south of the Sahara, alongside South Sudan and Ethiopia. Can you imagine? Alongside South Sudan, how Nigeria has fallen. So,
a whole giant of Africa.
Yeah, so-called giant of Africa. People want to really see change. And all this that is happening, it doesn't look good at all.
Okay. All right. That's where we leave it on the big story analysis this morning, this fine Thursday morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance.